I was just about to back out and that catamaran just stopped right behind me. I ain't got much room at the side of me either to swing round, so I'm going to have to go up there to turn round, I think. I'll take it really easy. Well, as luck would have it, there were loads of room up the top to turn round, because a boat that was just here in front of us now on the pontoon had just moved off, and will now be sitting in front of us because it's probably too big to go between the gap that the catamaran's left. So it's stuck now, so now we're getting in a little bit of a queue. The Pride of Man 3, he's now backing up. He's going back where he come from, because you can see there's a sailing boat motoring up and it's closed the gap. So we have to back up as well. When I see the opportunity arise, I buzz through the gap between them and think to myself, well, I can get a little bit further down and hang on down there. We're just coming up to the catamaran here on our port side. We were berthed next to that powerboat on the starboard side now, just slipping out the screen. We tried to stop here for a second, but the wind keeps blowing us, so we're going to have to go with it. But I can see the blue bridges raising in the distance, so I may as well get on with going out. There's half a dozen boats or so all waiting to get out on this lock, and that's what all the commotion's about. People afraid they're not going to get out if they don't move quick enough. Well, there's 2 boats out ahead of us, and we've got plenty of time to get our fenders and lines stowed now, just before we get to the outer harbour. Obviously, Lisa being super efficient does most of the work, and me being skipper, of course, just tries to steer the boat in a straight line, and I'm not very successful at it. There's a boat on our port side going in now. Well, I think there's still a number of boats waiting to come out, so I hope he doesn't meet somebody just coming round the corner as he's entering. Well, here we are, we're ship shape now, and we're just coming from the inner harbour into the outer harbour, and then obviously exit into the Irish Sea. There's a little bit of breeze when we get out here, not a lot, but it's too close for my nose for me to do anything with. So it looks like we're motoring for the initial start of this. We've got a fairly good forecast. We've got a south to southwesterly. Well, if the southwesterly kicks in, we should be able to get a fairly decent sail, and as you can see, the sea's quite sedate. Our heading is south-southeast, so if it stays south it'll always remain a little bit too close to the nose for us to get any use out of, unfortunately. These lucky people in this French boat here, flying along, see, he's going a sharper line than I could even dream to make. I've put my main up and I can fill my main, but I can't sail on it and keep any pace up. I get ever such a slight advantage of having my main up when I'm motoring into the wind. It steadies the boat up and takes the rock out of the boat, and it keeps it quite steady. And also you get a teeny weeny tiny amount of drive, but not very much while it's still close to my nose. But hey, we've only got another 50 odd miles to go. It's a very pleasant day, and I'm sure I'm going to be kept busy by ships. That's one dead ahead 5 miles away. But that's one which isn't dead ahead and is on his way, and it's him I've got to watch out for, the ones that are on the way. The ship 5 miles ahead of us, well, you can see him on the bow now. He's in the mist, or is that a sun haze? I'm not sure. And there he goes over there into the lovely blue skies. The day seems to be progressing lovely weather-wise, except the wind doesn't seem to be doing much at all. There's not much in the way of strength in it, and it certainly isn't coming southwest for me yet. We have, however, put a bit of a distance in between us and the Isle of Man. As you can see it there, it is now starting to fade into the background. But it will be fading into the background for quite a bit of time, yeah, because you can see it for miles ordinarily. And the sail, well no, that's not holding the wind. There you go, it flops out as soon as the boat moves over the wave. Well, I'm on collision duty now, starting to look for this little devil and see if we're going to get hit by him or not. I can see the port bow of the ship and he's doing 20 knots, so you think he's going to pass the bow of us, but he's not. He's going to pass the stern, because when I take compass readings, the compass starts rising on each reading, which means he's going to go to the back of us, like he looks like he is now, but that's only because he's got a bit closer. From the first time I spot a ship to when it passes us, I keep the compass on it every 5 minutes, and I put the degrees that I can see it at to whatever it is. And when it's on our starboard side, if the degrees is falling, he's going to go ahead of us. If the degrees is climbing, he's going to go astern of us. And if the degrees is staying the same, we're going to hit him. Oh no, another lobster pot in the middle of the sea. Who'd have believed it? Well, he's the culprit, dealing with his lobster pots out here where you think you're in clear water. And just look at this, it's a day of very fast ships. You can see another one on my starboard there coming at us at God knows what speed. We haven't got any usable wind yet, but we're covering ground at an okay pace because we've got the tide with us, or should I say the ebb with us. I've got the foresail up a bit now as well, only jib sized, but it's just about filling with the angle of wind, and it does help us a little bit. The Isle of Man's all but vanished now, just a rib of cloud where it sits. That's Ireland over there that you just can't see because it's just a little bit too far and there's a little bit of a haze about, keeping visibility down. And that ahead of us down there should be Anglesey, and we can't see that either because of the haze. And we can't see any of these ships that are flying at us either, and he is flying, another 20 knotter. So from the minute I think I can see it on the horizon, I start recording it to see if he's going to pass us or hit us. At the same time I'm doing this, I'm trying to enjoy the day and the sail, or the motor sail, as we're having at the moment as well, because the weather is cracking. I suppose I should be glad for good visibility, because in poor visibility these ships would drive you mad not knowing whether they were going to get you or not. But he looks like he's going to pass our stern now quite happily anyway, and my figures there, they show he's growing in degrees all the time, so that agrees he's going to pass our stern. And I can now see his starboard bow through the binoculars there, thus confirming our calculations are correct, and he will pass our stern. Well, look at it now for high-speed craft, they're everywhere in front of me. It really is becoming a little bit of a dizzy nightmare, this. So he's going round the back of me, but there's one going to hit me bows by the looks of it, so let's see what's happening with him. There he is. He's going to pass in front of me, so that's safe. There's a good half a mile between us, so we won't be bashing that one either. This chap's on my port bow now coming along, but he's going to pass our stern by calculations. Although he looks like he's going to hit us in that frame, he shouldn't. There's his speed, 13 knots. I feel much better when it's a 13 knot ship. It's much better than when it's a 30 knot ship, I'll tell you. I feel like I'm going to run out of paper if any more ships appear. Well, here he is, about to pass me stern. And here's the other fella that actually passed me stern. Well, as he creeps up on us, I don't think we're going to get any closer than half a mile. But he's a very big fella, and he wouldn't be able to turn if he was right on top of you, that's for sure. So it's up to you to stay out of his way most of the time. Well, with them all behind me, I can enjoy a bit more of the day. Until we get closer to Anglesey, where there'll be a flux of ships on the way to Liverpool coming round the top of the island. Well, I can relax for a little bit now. There's nothing on the horizon and nothing on the AIS. So I'll go inside and see where the chart fixers are going and see how we're doing distance wise and where we're up to. Still, we're motor sailing in very light airs, most of which we're generating ourselves. So our 2 to 4 southwesterly hasn't happened. I've marked the area of lobster pots so that next time I'm doing a night sail I won't get stuck with it. And there's our up-to-date mark, which is 4 o'clock or 15:59, and we've got all that to travel, so we've got a little bit more to go. Well, we haven't made halfway yet, and there doesn't seem to be much land anywhere to see. I can still see the clouds from the Isle of Man behind us, and I can't see any glimpses of Ireland over there. And I can't see Anglesey anywhere near in front of us either, but I can see there's a lot of grey sky there. But there's no grey skies here, that's for sure. We've just got sunlight all around us, and the sky is lovely and blue, which is the way we'd like it to stay. Our stats are we're staying over 5.5 knots, which is good. We've got a clear run ahead of us for ships, and there's about 18 miles before we get to northern Anglesey. We've only got about 4 knots of wind if you take our speed off. And that's just about to completely vanish anyway. The wind's even easing off more than it was, virtually disappearing, and as you can see, the sea's completely fallen flat almost. Speed over ground seems to have slowed a little bit because of adverse current at this moment in time. We've still got speed up through the water, but this is starting to look more and more like bin bags every minute. Looks like we're about to swap our beautiful blue day for a grey one with no wind in it whatsoever. Well, just about anything can happen in 60 miles. There's nothing in that sail at all, and I've rolled the Genoa up as well. It's funny, looking at the oven seems to make my belly rumble a little bit, but it's got a bit of sunshine on it, so there's a little bit still getting through. It's not all grey, but that definitely is 100% bin bags now. There is no wind on that water whatsoever. So it looks like we're probably going to be motoring for 60 miles. On the plus side though, I can see Anglesey coming into focus in the distance up there. And on the negative, another ship coming our way, who appears to have a heading for Liverpool and is sitting on 235 degrees to us, so we're on a collision course unfortunately. I'm going to stick 10 degrees in to starboard so that hopefully we'll start heading towards this stern. The readings on this fella are a little bit close for comfort, so I might even have to do a U-turn if the time comes. Well, for some freaky reason we're still on a collision course, and I've put 20 degrees on now, and he appears to be slowing as I'm putting degrees on, and as I get closer to him he almost stops in my path. Well, I ended up putting 40 degrees on to go around his stern, which wasn't very good for me, because if I'd have just carried on I'd have passed his bows, but how am I supposed to know that this big fella's going to just sit there and stop in front of me? So he's definitely my least favourite ship of the day. Well, there's Linus in the distance. Believe it or not, that's 6 miles away. Pretty good zoom on the camera, innit? And you can even see Middlemouse a little bit further along the way there if I pan around. There it is. Ahead of us though, there's another group of ships, but I'm happy to say these little devils are all at anchor. So I'll be able to slip between the whole bunch without worrying about having to take readings and see what they're up to. Lisa seemed to have picked a good time to make some dinner. We're going through a little bit of a squall now. That'll be the grey weather we seen earlier on, but we'll soon be out of it. We're a beam Linus, and a little bit of a squall's left a little bit of air moving. So hopefully if it fills in a little bit, you never know, we might get a little bit of a sail. And we've still got to navigate all these ships ahead of us though. Well, it's been quite a passage up to now, and we've got the lion's share out the way. We've nearly 2/3 of the journey passed, and dinner getting served. I'm going to have to take a break for a moment from camera work and get this down my neck. Dinner gone, and if you notice, it's all gone quiet. We've turned the engine off, and we've actually got the sails working. There's enough air for us to still keep a pace up and get back at a decent hour, and we've only got 18 miles to go. 1/3 of the trip left. Let's see if we can sail our way back. I tell you what though, after 8 hours of buzzing motor, you really appreciate turning it off and listening to the water. Our stats are still decent as well. We've got a bit of tide with us now, which is now flood, carrying round the island, and we've got 5 knots through the water, which is fairly decent. We have got 15 knots of wind though, and it is at 60 degrees, which is definitely sailable for us. Well, there feels enough breeze in this puff at this particular moment in time now to carry us all the way back home. So at least we'll manage a third of our trip under our canvas rather than our motor alone. Because I think really the motor sailing was mostly just when we left the Isle of Man, and it turned into just a motor after that when the wind vanished. And it's now that I think to myself, I wonder if we'd have left later and we'd have had wind all the way, but that means we'd have been getting back in the early hours of the morning, or maybe tomorrow lunchtime, and not today. Wasn't a chance I was thinking about taking. Anyway, it's good to be thankful for small mercies. We could have ended up motoring a full distance, so to have this little pleasurable sail for the last third of our voyage is very nice indeed. And it almost looks, looking back online as there, like we're going to get ourselves a sunset now as we slip along. Oh, and the wind vane's been sticking, so I haven't been using it much, so that's got to come off and be serviced when I get back. We're abeam Red Wharf Bayish at the moment, so it won't be long before we get ourselves to Puffin Island. Our heading, funny enough, is the Puffin Sound, as if we're going to go down the Straits, but we're not, because there's a little bit of a flood with us. It's shoving us a little bit sideways. So to keep the correct course, we have to have the incorrect heading and slip a little bit. Well, thankfully, as we move into shallower waters, they're all the last ships we should see on our AIS, and we shouldn't have to avoid any more. We'd chosen today to come back with not the most ideal winds, but the probabilities of getting some wind that was usable for one reason. The 4 days beforehand have been extremely strong southwesterlies. We can use a southwesterly, but we don't want to use a strong one, because a strong southwesterly comes with lumpy seas around here. Well, it's funny, but I feel like I'm home now. When I see Puffin Island up close, I know there's only about 7 miles until I tie the boat up, and that really is just over an hour's work, even when the speed comes down to 4 knots. Really close to home now, with the Great Orme in sight, and I work at the bottom of the Great Orme's foot, and Conway Mountains just there. Well, you can actually see the cars on the road now in the distance shooting along the A55. Snowdonia mountain range, and then into the Menai Straits. And there's Puffin abeam of us. The Teddy's soaking up the last little bit of sunshine. And there it is, slowly slipping away. And we've done very well. We've still got decent speed. And we've carried that sunshine all day more or less, except for one little tiny squall by Linus. And there's our fairway boy. It looks like the sun's going to hang on until we're all the way home. He's even lighting the sky up nice and red for us. We've actually arrived at Conway River. It's gone 10 o'clock at night and it's still got a little bit of light out. Well, thanks very much for watching. It's been more like dodge the ship than sail the boat today, but I'm quite sure you've enjoyed dodging ships with us. I'll see you all next time, so until I see you again, bon voyage.